Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome back to Harry's Highlights. On this video, we're going to talk about the book Managing Oneself. Now this book is all about basically becoming the most effective you can be with the tools, personality traits and characteristics that you have. Now it's written by Peter Drucker. So for those people that don't know Peter Drucker, basically all the work that he did laid the foundation for the modern MBA degree that we have nowadays. The MBA degree is your Masters in Business Administration. So that's sort of understanding how to run a business, the administration, day-to-day task and management of it all. The work that he did many decades ago, we built upon that one. But he initially came up with it to have an understanding how people work, the way they do things, why they do things, and he gave what I call actionable advice, which is advice that you can put action behind. It's not just sort of like that's a good point. It's about the solution to the problem. And what he did in this book was basically highlight the problems, use this information to highlight the problems that are there, that people have, and gave actionable advice or solutions to those problems that you can implement and take action on. So what it was designed to do was to give you the chance or the blueprint to become the most effective you can be. And what it did was it broke down all the different angles, facets and characteristics that people have and people are, and explain it in a broad spectrum way that you can then understand it and apply it to yourself specifically. So what I want to talk about is some of the major ones that I believe have the most influence on people and give people the most effective and immediate impact as soon as you can, in the shortest amount of time. So the first one that I want to talk about there is that what are your strengths? So you need to know what your strengths are so that you can concentrate on them and improve them. When you know what your strengths are, you're then able to manage and delegate your energy more effectively because you'll put majority of your effort and energy into improving your strengths because they're your strengths. They're what make you the most effective. And then part of that on your weaknesses. Where too many people try to spread it out evenly because they don't really know what it is yet. You're spending unnecessary or ineffective amounts of energy and time on weaknesses that would have a far big impact if you focused on your strengths. Or put that extra into your strengths. So let's say the scale is 90-10. You put 90% of your energy and effort into your strengths, building on those, concentrating on those, improving those, and 10% on your weaknesses so that they are, to some degree, using the compound effect, are growing and improving slowly but surely. But to have positive, immediate impact and effect, you focus on your strengths. And that's what Peter Drucker understood. That's what part of his book was about understanding how to become more effective as a person. And then, so one of the things I'm talking about here was that understanding that when people know what their strengths are, they identify them, they can then actively polish, work on them, improve them, build on them, and then not waste extra time, unnecessary time on weaknesses. The other good thing is that when it comes to any sort of a group or team or any sort of project you're doing, you go, I know I'm really good at this, I'm not so good at this. So what I will focus on is this, because this is what I'm good at, this is my strength. You know, it's like the difference between putting you wouldn't put an introvert, in front of a crowd. If you put someone that's very shy, everything like that, that's not their strength. You put them in front of a crowd and say yeah, this is what you're going to do. They're going to be constantly feeling like you're working against them because you're not utilizing their strengths. Their strength is, something sort of more say research-based or individual and working by yourself. That's their strength. You work with them. So with anything you do, you want to know your strengths so that you can put that forward, and then when it comes to joining a team, when it comes to doing anything that you decide to do, you know how to be more effective. Which brings to the second one about performance, is that how do you perform? Where do you perform the best? And do you know how to know how to work best with that? What do you do that works best? Are you more of a listener? Are you more of a reader, a speaker? How do you learn? Understanding that what helps you perform the best. Some people perform fantastic under pressure. Other people absolutely crumble. So understanding how you perform will help give you more insight into how to be more effective. Because if you've got someone that's constantly that crumbles under pressure, but you keep putting them in a pressure environment, sure, over time they'll get better. But the problem is that if that's their main and only, they're putting all the energy and effort into that, it's going to tax and wear them out so much. There's very, very few amount of people that can sort of overcome that quickly or constantly. But for the majority of people, they're just going to feel like they're constantly going to have a defeated mindset. They're constantly going to go, well, I'm no good at this. I'm just going to fail like I did every other day. There's a very, very, very small amount of people that go like, yep, I failed yesterday, but today will be different. Today will be different. That real rise to the challenge, persistence. There's a very small amount of people that are population like that. Majority of the people are very like, well, here we go again. Like, why am I even trying? I'm just going to fail again. So you need to know, how do you perform? You put them in an environment where there's no stress, and it's like, here, you manage your own time. As long as we get the result, all good. Watch them perform. Watch them go, okay, right, I've got 10 hours to get this done. I'm going to spend 4 hours doing this and the other 6 hours doing this. And watch them produce the results that you thought were impossible, because they know how they perform. They understand it and they work on their strength. They build on their strength and they minimize their weaknesses. So understand lots of other things, like with how do you learn? Are you more of a visual learner? Are you an auditory learner? Are you a kinesthetic learner? Like you learn by doing. Some people, it doesn't matter how much you speak to them about whatever it is you're trying to teach them. Unless they do it, it just won't connect the dots for them. It just never ever joins. As soon as you show them how to do it, they're like, no worries, I'll copy that 1,000 times over, easy, every time, every day. After only seeing it one time. You could have explained it for 1,000 hours. It goes just like, I'm describing it to you so you can understand and visualize it. Like, I'm just not getting it. Show them one time, if they're a kinesthetic learner, and bam, they'll be able to replicate that each and every time perfectly. If you're an auditory learner, you try to teach someone by purely showing them, they're like, I know I'm seeing it, I know like what you're doing, but I don't quite get it. Could you explain it to me again? And then all of a sudden you take that away and you're like, okay, look, let me explain it this way. I use this metaphor, this analogy. If you take this here and this there and you put them together, you're going to get this, right? Yeah, okay, I'm getting it now. That difference is understanding how you learn. See, and for other people, they might be purely a reader. They might be, it doesn't matter if you show them, it doesn't matter if you speak it to them. They only learn by reading it, by seeing the words themselves and imagining it, that picture by themselves in their own mind, and then they can understand it. Because when I say something like, bear, the bear that you're thinking of, the bear that I'm thinking of could be completely different. I could be thinking of those Asian bears with a yellow face. You could be thinking about Winnie the Pooh. Another person could be thinking about, a big grizzly bear. Another person could be thinking about a polar bear. See, everyone learns differently, and understanding that even somebody that learns through reading, they learn it because everything you're teaching them, even though that made sense, and they understand the words, they understand you speak the same language, how they operate is completely different. But understanding how you perform and how you learn will help you become more effective. Because the next thing you need to know is, do you perform better in a team? Do you perform perform better individually? Understanding that as well helps you understand and maximize your strengths. Because sure, there's times you're going to work in a team, and sure, there's times you're going to work by yourself. But understanding what you're going to work better in helps you to go like, look, I understand this is how we do things here, but I'm just letting you know, I do perform better by myself. Or just letting you know, I do perform better in a team. By myself, I just get distracted. Having a team, I always feel compelled or obligated to keep doing things. By myself, I'll just lose track. Other people, I just don't feel good in crowds. I feel like it's so much, it's intense, there's a lot of pressure. I just feel like I'm constantly being watched and scrutinized. So working by myself, I'm a whiz. It's like I'm a genius awakened, And understanding that will help you be more effective. And that's what this is about being more effective. Now, the other one talking about understanding, where do you belong? Because knowing where you belong will help you perform at your best, will help you perform at your most effectiveness, using the most effective techniques. Now, knowing where you belong is understanding that when you know it, it takes you from good to great. Because if you understand that your job is, you're a leader, that is where you belong. You are good in leadership positions. You're great managing people. You can delegate people effectively. You inspire influence. But you're put in a position where it's basically you're by yourself. You have very little contact with anybody else. And it's all very introverted sort of driven work. Not that's a bad thing, but introverted driven work. And you just find yourself okay, great, I can lead myself. That's no worries. But then knowing and going I would be so much better utilized out there, feeling like you don't belong here. This is not good for me. I can do it because I'm disciplined. I can lead myself, but I'm better out there. That's where I belong. As soon as you know that, and as soon as you can communicate that, you can then go from good to great. Because you might be able to do good work here because you're disciplined, but you'll do great work out there because that's where you belong. And vice versa. putting someone in a position that is maybe they might be really good at, they might be really, really good at doing sort of like a research work, but you've heard them how knowledgeable they are. They say, great, put you in a leadership position so you can teach everybody. They go, they crumble and fall apart. Or they sort of, because they're disciplined, they're like, yep, okay, I can communicate this just enough. So people are getting the information, but they're not feeling inspired. They're not feeling influenced. They're not feeling like motivated. They're getting the information, but that's not where they belong. Then you put them in this position over here where it's a little bit more isolated, a little bit more take things at your own pace, and watch them just go from good to great. Really watch them take off and blossom. It's a difference when you ever see like some sort of plants, for example, that like they need sun to really reach their full potential. And it's like, say they have like flowers. You keep that flower in a shaded area where it gets a little bit of sun. It's just enough for the flower to open, but just enough. It doesn't belong there. Like, it's good. Like, it's like, oh wow, that's a pretty smelling flower. Like, it looks quite nice. It's healthy and stuff. Then you put it in the sun and watch it blossom. That's where it belongs. That is where it is doing its best work. That is where it's producing its best results. That is where it is most effective. And then understanding that with yourself will help you to be more effective in whatever it is you do. Whether it be in a team, whether it be in a group, whether it be in a company, whether it be for yourself. That is understanding where you belong. The other thing that I want to talk about there is about understanding what should you contribute. So it's a very broad term, but understanding that like what gets measured can be managed. So when you can understand what you contribute, just how much you contribute, what it is specifically you contribute, what effect or what sort of effect it has, your contribution, you can then understand how to be more effective. You can understand that like you're contributing, say for example, you're contributing 90% of the work. Then you understand like, oh wow, I'm contributing a lot. This is why I'm burning myself out. Understanding that like, okay, I need to manage this better. On the other scale is that, imagine if you're only contributing 10% and everyone else is contributing 90%. You're then realizing, wow, this is really unfair. One, I'm not growing because I'm only contributing so little. And two, I'm unfairly putting a bigger workload and stress and pressure on the rest of the team. So what should you contribute means to understand measuring how much of an effort, how much contribution you have in whatever it is you're doing. Whether you're by yourself or whether you're in a team, understanding what you contribute and what you need to like basically measure so you can manage it more effectively. So following all of these things here will help you to understand how to be more effective. So to quickly summarize, we talked about that this was basically about how to become the most effective you. It was talking about understanding that like you need to know certain things. Like you need to know what are your strengths. You need to know what they are so you can concentrate on them and improve them. You need to know, how do you perform? Do you perform better in a group? Do you perform better by yourself? How do you learn? Are you like an auditory learner, a kinesthetic learner, a visual learner? Knowing that one will help you to perform at your peak. Understanding, where do you belong? Where is the part of this, if you look at it like a big puzzle piece or machine, what part do you fit in the best to make you the most effective? And then understanding that by then applying that or putting yourself in that position, you can then go from good to great. Then last time I was talking about that is that what should you contribute? What parts or areas are you contributing to and not contributing enough to? And then measuring it so then you can manage it better. And by following all of these things here I spoke about, you can then become a more effective you. And you can understand how to better manage oneself. Now, we'll make a lot more of these videos for this training series to help you with your personal development goals. That's all for now though. So until next time, leave a comment below on what you like the most, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the next episode of Harry's Highlights.